Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. At the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District meeting on November 9th, the board discussed the 2024 district holiday schedule. Executive Director Tom McGlasson outlined the 3 holiday schedules.
The resolution includes 3 different holiday schedules, one for the administration building, one for the South Walnut facility, and one for the rural sites. As we've historically done, in an effort to equal out the amount of paid holiday time employees get, we relate everything back to the amount of time the administration employees are getting, because that tends to be the department that gets the most number of holidays because of the varying schedules. So you can see on page, page 36 of the packet, I believe, does have a chart showing that comparison of how the holiday schedule breaks down by the differing employee schedules that we have, and you see that resulting in 3 different schedules of floating holidays provided to South Walnut employees based on their schedule rotations, and 6 floating holidays being provided to the Friday, Saturday site operators. And then all relating back and based on the administration proposed holiday schedule, which does mirror the holiday schedule adopted by Monroe County.
The board voted unanimously to approve the 2024 district holiday schedule. Next, the board discussed compensation for the executive director position. County Council member Jeff McKim introduced the issue and said that in other counties, the position receives a higher salary.
So now we have this is not a voting item, although it could possibly impact the next voting item. And that is a discussion on the compensation for the executive director. And I just want to note for the record that this is a topic that was brought up by members of the executive committee. This is not something that the executive director himself has brought up. I know it puts any official in an awkward position to be discussing their own salary, but just want to let everybody know that this was something that was brought up by the executive committee. So first of all, I think this was spurred by the general thought that the executive director was being undercompensated compared to his peers at other solid waste management districts. And thank you, Commissioner Githens did a whole bunch of research, pulled data from Gateway and other sources on both the salaries of comparable solid waste management districts. She pulled information from their websites. We had the county council office also get a couple of updated salaries that Gateway didn't have. And so Commissioner Githens put together a spreadsheet that she handed out here that has the information for Monroe County, Bartholomew County, Johnson County, and Hamilton County, which we felt were probably the most comparable solid waste management districts. It's tough because, as we learned, there's no such thing as a truly comparable solid waste management district. Everyone has a little bit different set of services that they provide, and number of employees and so on.
County Commissioner Penny Githens shared her findings from other counties.
As we were discussing this in executive committee, we came to learn that there are different priorities in different districts. And so some of these districts, you'll notice they don't take trash, or if they take bulky items, they charge a fee. I was surprised that in Bartholomew, they have 2 remote centers, but they only operate on Saturdays. So I think that from what I could tell from their websites, what we do in Monroe County is probably the most extensive of anybody that we looked at. So I am in favor of providing more compensation, I guess, to Mr. McGlasson. I'm not sure what that should be at, but that's where I stand.
The board agreed that the salary for the executive director should be raised. Githens suggested that they increase it to $84,000. City Council member Isabel Piedmont Smith summarized the amendment to the salary ordinance to adjust the executive director's salary.
The salary of our executive director is quite low compared to other comparable districts, even districts that have no closed landfill to administer and fewer pickup facilities and not as many services as we have. So I think it is appropriate that we significantly increase our executive director salary.
The board voted to approve the 2024 salary ordinance with the amendment. The Bloomington Board of Public Works met on November 8th. Before approving the consent agenda, board member Jane Cooper-Smith first asked how the department selected the providers for the 2024 service agreements. Public Works Facilities Director J.D. Boroff responded.
When we were reviewing them initially, I just had a question kind of about, I guess, the way the memos were prepared and talking about whether there were requests for proposals or how you come about entering into the agreements with these particular providers. And I know that you have a lot of experience with them, so we thought it would be helpful to have you talk about that.
The service agreements cover work that in the past that we had done with preferred vendors where under the State Board of Accounts, we could just approve at staff level. It was determined by the Legal Department Controller's Office that we had to have contracts with any vendor that came on city property to do work. And this is just formalizing an agreement, basically a hold harmless is part of the contract. The other part of the contract states their rates of service that they provide services at. And these services are all repair and maintenance related, below the threshold that we would have to bid work out at. Usually if work gets above $5,000, we have to get 3 quotes on that work. Or if we're doing a new installation or a major capital improvement, we have to solicit quotes and get, based on the cost of the estimated cost of the project. Like I said, the types of repairs we do under the service agreements, in the past, we did just call a preferred vendor to have them come and do the work for us. But this is a more formalized way to protect the city liability-wise.
Cooper-Smith followed up, asking how a service provider becomes a preferred vendor. Boroff and Cooper-Smith discussed this process.
They're usually vendors that we have worked with in the past that we're familiar with and we're comfortable using. Our HVAC, primary HVAC contractor is HFI. They're the company that initially installed the HVAC system here at City Hall 25 years ago and have kept it patched up and going ever since then. So it makes sense to have them. They're familiar with the system, and we've used them a lot. We are starting to branch out a little bit. We've got an agreement with Commercial Service now, and we will be probably at the beginning of the year introducing a small agreement with Heflin Mechanical. We feel that we need to give other local vendors an opportunity, but basically it's just vendors that we've worked with in the past and we feel comfortable that are qualified and have performed well in the past.
So it's almost like there are points of entry for other processes, and it's through that someone kind of builds a relationship and not builds a relationship, but they are able to demonstrate their reliability and the quality of work, and then through that they kind of maybe can become.
Yeah, there's been instances where we've kind of lost faith in a vendor and we went out and sought other vendors for contractual services. We haven't went through the RFP process or with service agreements just because of the sheer volume we have. But we do try to give preference to local vendors. That's part of our mandate, so we do that. But like I said, these are primarily services that according to State Board of Accounts, we can approve at staff level. They're maintenance and repair services, so it's something we normally wouldn't bid out.
The board approved the 2024 service agreements. Next, the board heard a request from Milestone Contractors for full street closure on West 2nd Street for Phase 1 of the Hopewell project. Engineering project manager Zach Rogers shared the details of the request.
Milestone is requesting a full closure of 2nd Street between, between Morton, sorry, between Morton and Rogers. And they will use First Street as a detour route. So it will be Rogers to First Street to Walnut College. The north sidewalk will remain open on Second Street. That was the question. Message boards will be set up in 2 weeks in advance. Police, fire, and MCCSC will be notified via inroads. And the Bloomington Transit was notified today.
Cooper Smith asked if neighbors were notified of the closures. Rogers confirmed that they would be notified. The board voted to approve the street closure request unanimously. At the Monroe County Commissioners' meeting on November 8th, Health Department Director Lori Kelly gave an update on COVID-19 cases in the county.
COVID hospitalizations, emergency room visits, and wastewater levels have all decreased over the past week. According to the CDC, HV1 is now the dominant COVID-19 variant that's circulating in the United States. It does not seem to cause more severe disease than other variants or escape immunity from the vaccines. We are monitoring flu and RSV. Generally in November, we begin to see increases, but they are still minimal at this time. And the Public Health Clinic has vaccines available for COVID, influenza, and RSV. You can call 812-353-3244.
Area 10 Agency on Aging Executive Director Chris Myers gave an update on rural transit numbers and usage across the county.
So for 2023, from January through October, rural transit, all 4 counties, remember we're 4 counties, has had 36,303 trips, which is an increase of about 12% over 2022 numbers. And then Monroe County specific, we've had 11,998 trips. So that's for the 10-month period. And that's actually an increase of 44% over last year. So still kind of starting to find that climb back up from COVID when it just tanked out, of course. But so that's good. Those are all great trends, and we're holding steady on that. Actually, system-wide, Putnam County is pretty close on par with the same kind of demand as Monroe County. They used to be slightly lower, but they're pretty close to where we are with the same sort of demand service that's going on. Just to give you an idea on revenue miles, the average trip for this year system-wide is 7.03 miles per trip. So again, showing that we're not like a city service. You know, we do put a lot of miles on the vehicles to provide those services. And Monroe County is actually 8.31%, or 8.31 miles per trip. We have successfully received all of the capital replacement vehicles for 2023 and are happy to work with Richard, who's been wonderful at Monroe County, getting new plates and dealing with all the BMV stuff. So we are in the process of going through the NDOT required disposal for those. So we have the old ones that we have to take all the decals off and all the equipment out, and then we'll be disposing of those hopefully in the next few months. We go through that govdeals.com system, so that works out great. And then just as a kind of a note to have, we attended, Lisa Salyers and I, who's the transit manager, and I attended the mandatory NDOT North-South meeting last month. And one of the things that Todd Jennings, who's the program manager, brought up is the intent for them to really look at systems. They have a lot of different one-county systems in the state for rural transit, and they're looking at trying to get those combined into more like the regional, like we are a regional rural transit provider. And so that's a kind of 5 to 10 year process that they're looking at. But for us and our system, they're looking at possibly taking on Brown and Jackson County as well. So as that conversation happens, I certainly will bring that back to you all because you are the grantee. and so we have to, of course, have your blessing to do that. But I know that I've talked with the Brown County system, and they were actually pretty excited about the idea of that because there's a lot that we have expertise in just because of the nature of our size that would help them out tremendously.
Commissioner Julie Thomas asked Myers to share the procedure for scheduling a ride and who is eligible to use their services. Myers responded.
You can call Area 10, just in general, Area 10, but we are rural transit is 812-876-1079. And one of our dispatchers will help you, get scheduled. And you can schedule for any purpose. Anybody can ride, so it can be any age, any ability or mobility issues. So we're happy to help anybody in the county.
I think that's one of the biggest myths, is that
Yeah.
it's only for particular abilities or particular ages, and it is open to everyone in the county. And
Yeah,
it's a wonderful service. And I also want to thank you for your ongoing work as we continue to dissect how we're going to manage this shift of January 1st, 2024, between the city and Ellettsville and Monroe County. So thank you for that.
Later in the meeting, Highway Department Director Lisa Ridge asked the commissioners to approve a change order for a portable stoplight on Sample Road.
We had to make some modifications when Sample Road was being built at the intersection of Old 37 North and Sample Road due to a gas main being within the area. So to eliminate any damage to that, we ended up having a portable traffic signal so that we could keep the road open at least to one lane and not have to deal with the gas main.
The commissioners approved the change order unanimously. The Bloomington Utilities Service Board met on Monday, November 6. A financial advisor from Cronin Associates, Gerald Hall, walked the board through their bonds. He suggested that new bonds should be approved before the current ones mature.
Currently, you have you have 6 bonds outstanding. Okay, you have you have a 2013 refunding that matures on January 1st, 2025. Your 2006 bonds mature on January 1st, 2027, and 2019 refunding bonds that mature on January 1st, 2027. Those 3 are the only ones that mature within a reasonable amount of time. The rest of them are the next one's out in 2030. So what has happened is, since we spoke, I looked, the bonds we have issued in 21 and 20 kind of wrap around those falling off. So where those go away, we kind of pick up steam on the 2020 bond and the 21 refunding. And so we won't really recognize kind of a drop in debt service until 2021 bonds mature in January 1, 2033. So we have, effectively what we have is level combined debt service from, 2024 through 2033, and then it will fall off.
Board member Kirk White expressed his gratitude for the work Hall put into this planning.
As I've mentioned before, and we've all talked about before, we don't ever want to end up like Flint, Michigan. Nope. Folks in our positions who didn't want to make tough choices, and they pay me now or pay me later. That's how it works. So, thank you.
Board President Amanda Burnham asked if there was a potential to restructure the bonds in the future. Hall responded.
So another strategy or something we consider, it's called call protection. So we borrow money today on 20-year term, and let's say we put a 5-year call protection. That means you can't touch it, you can't refinance it for 5 years. Versus if we put 10 years. What happens is there's a trade-off, though, because if you're buying a bond, right, and you buy it at a rate, and you know it's locked in for 10 years, you're going to get a little better rate. You're going to pay a premium versus, so what I'm saying is there's a cost of buying a shorter call, and that's definitely in this current interest rate environment. I mean, historically, you know where we've been. It's trended up. It's maybe the new norm for who knows how long. I don't know, unfortunately. But we're going to look at the cost of a 10-year call, an 8-year call, a 5-year call, knowing full well that if the rates go back down, we want to be in a position to restructure this and pay them off. So it's definitely something we look at when we're doing that.
The board voted unanimously to recommend the sewer and stormwater bond. Utilities engineer Jane Flagg requested the board's approval of Resolution 2023-20 to accept and award a bid for the Clear Creek Culvert Reconstruction Project from Dunn Street to Indiana Avenue. Kirk White asked when this reconstruction would be completed. Flagg responded.
The contract timeline is 250 days from notice to proceed for substantial completion. So if that started after the next board meeting, That would be the end of July, would be substantial completion, and then final completion would be at the end of October.
Later in the meeting, the board heard a request for the approval of resolution of 2023-24 for the adoption of the revised Title 13 Stormwater Ordinance.
The most recent copy of the ordinance, which is the one you received Friday, went out to the departments earlier this morning. I've asked them if they have any additional questions. We're on the 4th draft now, to please send them by a week from today. And then we could start setting meetings with the departments to continue conversations on the 14th and then going forward.
Burnham thanked everyone for their work on this ordinance.
Thank you to everybody for all of your hard work on this. I know Catherine's been involved with this. I know that Liz has. Chris, you've taken a lot of the...
It's been the staff. I've just watched.
And I'm sure that with you gals, that there's also other people on the team that have helped. So without knowing those names, thank you for taking on this project. It was something that was probably added to your other duties as assigned. You weren't expecting it this go-round, since it was something that was mandated by the state, and we had to get this in place. So we appreciate all of the work that you've done and working with all of the departments. Hopefully this will go through very well with the City Council.
The ordinance was approved unanimously. The next Utilities Service Board meeting will be held on November 20th. And that is all for Cats Week. Thank you for joining us. For Cats and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.